Good afternoon, everyone. Today's topic is peripheral vascular disease, and the main purview of the topic is going to be when to suspect peripheral vascular disease, depending upon how the patient comes to you and complains about, and then how to evaluate the patient with peripheral vascular disease. We are not going to discuss the treatment part in detail, or we are not going to discuss anything about treatment part. Our focus would be on suspicion and how to evaluate peripheral vascular disease. So first of all, we should know what is peripheral vascular disease. Peripheral vascular disease is also termed as a peripheral arterial disease, and which is a disorder of blood circulation, which is most commonly seen in lower limbs. Though upper limbs is also affected by peripheral vascular disease, but atherosclerotic tendency of upper limb is quite less. So what we are going to discuss, or what our focus will be, is on lower extremities. Pathological narrowing along the arterial line reduces the blood flow in the limbs, and which results in the symptoms of peripheral vascular disease. If we look at certain statistics of peripheral vascular disease, it is estimated that more than 10 million, that means more than 1 crore people in India, may be affected by the disease. An estimated 40% of the patients with coronary artery disease have associated peripheral arterial disease as well. Among the peripheral arterial disease patients, 14% of the patients have associated carotid artery disease, and 70% might have renal artery stenosis as well. In diabetic patients in India, the prevalence of peripheral vascular disease could be as high as 36%. What is the mechanism of peripheral arterial disease? Basically, narrowing or stenosis in the peripheral arterial system, or maybe complete blockage of peripheral arteries. The most common cause underlying is atherosclerosis, is responsible for symptoms of peripheral arterial disease. And there are some other less common causes of peripheral arterial disease. For example, aberrant or unusual anatomy of the ligaments, median arcuate ligament syndrome causing obstruction of the supramesenteric artery may be responsible. Inflammation, that means certain forms of vasculitis, collagen disorders may cause peripheral vascular disease, and of course, trauma. The risk factors for peripheral arterial disease include age, dyslipidemia, family history, hypertension, smoking, diabetes, obesity. So whenever you are taking history, you have to keep mind in all the factors to suspect peripheral vascular disease. So in OPD settings, whenever patient complains of pain in the limbs, especially lower limbs, unless proven otherwise, you have to suspect peripheral arterial disease. The presence of peripheral vascular disease in many cases may not be evident because of mild, or maybe there are no symptoms. It may be reported as leg pain when walking, and that leg pain when walking is also called as intermittent vascular claudication. And there are certain specific characteristics of claudication in peripheral vascular disease, which is usually in the form of muscle pain or cramping in the legs or arms, which is aggravated by physical activity like walking, which disappears after resting for some time. And though the calf is the most common location, the location of pain indicates the location of the narrowed or blocked artery. The severity of claudication is a variable that can range from mild discomfort to the severe restrictive pain, and that may interfere with normal day-to-day physical activity of a person. Other commonly reported signs and symptoms are if patient complains of change in the color and texture of the skin, growth of hairs and nails are hampered, the limb is felt cold, or there is a numbness or weakness of the limb, there are some non-healing ulcers or sores are there, then these are all the candidates that you have to suspect peripheral arterial disease. And once you suspect peripheral arterial disease, you have to go specifically through the stages of the peripheral vascular disease to understand in what stage the patient is presented. Dr. Fontaine and Dr. Rutherford, they both have given different classifications for the stages of peripheral vascular disease, wherein Fontaine gave 4 stages of peripheral vascular disease, in which stage 1 is asymptomatic, stage 2 is a pain in calf muscles which occurs after walking for more than 200 meters, which is stage 2A. Stage 2B is pain in the calf after less than 200 meters of crossing distance. Stage 3 is rest pain, and stage 4 is ischemic ulcer or gangrene. While Rutherford gave 7 stages of peripheral vascular disease or say claudication pain, wherein stage 0 is asymptomatic. Stage 0 asymptomatic doesn't mean that there is a patient does not have peripheral vascular disease, but peripheral vascular disease may be in so much of less form or the collateral circulation is so well developed that patient feels asymptomatic, though he may be having underlying peripheral vascular disease. So it is a stage 0. Mild claudication, moderate claudication, and severe claudication is respectively stage 1, 2, and 3. So what is mild claudication? When patient feels pain after walking the distance which is more than the usual daily walking of that particular person. Moderate claudication is when patient feels calf pain after walking the regular normal daily distance what patient is used to. And severe claudication when if patient is accustomed to walking 1 kilometer distance per day and he starts feeling pain after walking for 500 meters, then it becomes a severe claudication. So it is a stage 3. Stage 4 is a rest pain wherein patient feels pain even when he is in the bed taking rest. Stage 5 is ischemic ulcerations involving or limited to the forefoot or the digits. Stage 6 is extensive ischemic ulceration or frank gangrene. Once you suspect a patient having peripheral vascular disease on the basis of different types of pain, you have to start evaluating patients. The physical examination and history taking is the most important part in the evaluation of peripheral vascular disease. Whenever a patient complains of a pain in the limb, then you have to first ask, where is the pain? Is there a pain at more than one site? Does the pain migrate? How is the quality of the pain? What does the pain feel like? It is a burning type of pain, cramping pain, throbbing pain, or what type of pain it is? Is there more than one type of discomfort? Are there any exacerbating factors? What makes the pain worse? See, in classically, when patient starts walking, it makes the pain worse. So it suggests that there is a vascular claudication. You have to ask whether there are any relieving factors. What makes it better? If patient takes rest, patient will categorically say, when I take rest, the pain feels better. That means once again, you have to suspect peripheral arterial disease. You have to ask for the timing. When did it begin? It was the onset sudden or gradual? And progression, is it getting day by day better or getting worse or staying the same? So detailed history taking about the calf pain is very important in the evaluation of the peripheral vascular disease. And most of the time, acute or chronic peripheral vascular disease can be categorized on the basis of thorough history taking. In the physical examination, classically, we know inspection, palpation, percussion, and auscultation. In peripheral vascular disease evaluation, percussion has no role, but inspection of the skin, nails, character of ulcers, they are very important in examination of peripheral arterial disease and its complications. Art of palpating limb and peripheral pulses is quite important. Whenever patient comes to you with calf pain, and if you have a habit of palpating dorsalis pedis or postitibial artery, at the same time you will be able to rule out the presence or absence of peripheral arterial disease. Auscultation at the site, arterial site for murmur may suggest sometimes underlying stenosis in the artery. So after history taking, physical examination is quite important in the primary evaluation of the patient. And after history taking and after palpating pulse, if you suspect that patient is having significant peripheral arterial disease, then there are certain different modalities which come into picture. Some of them are quite cheap and easily available, and some of them are quite expensive, but they are really technological, they are real technological advancement. So the first in the list is ankle brachial pressure index or ankle brachial index. In short, we may call it ABI. Ankle brachial index machine is available at our SIMS hospital also, which is quite handy and very cheap also. So ankle brachial index at rest is both sensitive as well as specific for peripheral artery disease. And in multiple population studies, it is demonstrated as a good marker for the cardiovascular morbidity and mortality. It is an appropriate screening test in patients of more than 50 years of age with a history of diabetes or tobacco use. So there are certain ABI guidelines. If ABI is more than 1.4. Normal ABI is considered to be 1 to 1.39. But more than 1.4 is once again when arteries are non-compressible. So ankle brachial index, it does not carry any significance. And 0.9 to 0.99 ABI is considered borderline. Still, you can consider it normal. But ABI which is less than 0.9 is considered abnormal. Ankle brachial index is simply a ratio between the brachial blood pressure and blood pressure taken just above the ankle in the lower leg. In some advanced machine, there is a toe brachial index as well. And toe brachial index of more than 0.7 is considered normal, wherein the machine measures the blood pressure or oxygen saturation at the toe level. So whenever it is difficult to palpate peripheral pulses, maybe because of edema, maybe because of obesity, or maybe because of some ulcers and all. So in those cases, ABI is really helpful to rule out peripheral arterial disease. The next in order is arterial duplex ultrasound. Duplex ultrasound is the most common testing modality used in vascular laboratories, and this is most important statement that it incorporates two-dimensional grayscale ultrasound to provide an image of the arterial structures. And second is pulse wave Doppler to sample the velocities of blood flow at a specific location within the arterial lumen. It spans the gap between static imaging and hemodynamic evaluation. The reliability, portability, and range of studies that can be performed with duplex ultrasound make it indispensable for the arterial evaluation. And another comes is the CT angiography. Resolution of arterial system has increased with the advent of new multi-slide CT scanners, and CT angiography has become the first-line study for peripheral arterial disease. Accurate planning of procedure is facilitated with CT angiography, but the dense calcification in arterial stent, orthopedic implants, they interfere with the proper imaging. Need for IV contrast, which has got nephrotoxicity, and radiation exposures, they are the factors to be considered while prescribing CT angiography. Other associated investigations can be in the form of MR angiography. If you are simultaneously working out for coronary artery disease, then catheter-based peripheral as well as coronary angiography is really helpful. Catheter-based angiography is really helpful when you are planning endovascular intervention simultaneously. And of course, some blood tests to rule out dyslipidemia and to assess the diabetic status. So these are the primary factors once you suspect. These are the primary tests that you have to order to the patient when you suspect peripheral arterial disease. Thank you so much.